Hey, it's the truth anyway, and I'm PK. Thank you for joining with us today. I am the lead pastor of Connect Church here in Jacksonville, Florida. This is my co-host, Christy Smith. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
I did. How about you?
I did.
Good.
Took a little Thanksgiving break.
Me too. I needed it.
Cooked a whole bunch of food. I actually cooked some good stuff with this. It was good. I did a lot of the cooking. We hosted Marcia and I in our house this year, all the family. We had 20
Nice.
people in our
Wow.
little house this year. It was
Nice.
pretty good. It was really cool.
Cool.
My favorite, I'm glad you asked. My my favorite thing was coconut pie.
I bet that was good.
very, very delicious.
Bet that was good.
It was good, very good. Well, being as we're sitting here comparing our Thanksgivings,
Let's just talk about that.
let's just talk about comparison. I want us to talk about comparison today. You know, I've been thinking about Christmas and how it makes people feel sometimes. You know, everybody doesn't feel warm and fuzzy during the holidays.
Right.
I don't know if you know that. But Christy, have you ever caught yourself feeling depressed around the holidays? Ever been around somebody who did?
Yep.
You know, why do you think that happens?
I think it boils down to people see what other people are doing, people see what they're not doing, and people are comparing their life to people's social media highlight reels. And I think that comparison is worse now more than ever because of social media.
Absolutely.
And you just get to see what people are doing, all the traveling they're doing. They're like, oh, how do they get to travel and I don't? I got to
Oh,
stay
they went to
more.
Bali for the holidays.
Right.
Look at that.
Yeah, look at their perfect little family. They don't have any issues, all that
Sick.
stuff. Yeah. Maybe someone got a new car and you didn't, stuff like that. And
Yeah, you did.
right. kind of 10 months later. But it's just like stuff like that. It just adds up and it does play a toll on your mind and your mindset around the holidays.
Here's what I just heard you say. People look at their lives, or I look at my life, and I compare it to somebody else's life.
Mm-hmm.
And I compare it to what I see on social media.
Mm-hmm.
You know, social media is one thing in specific, and that is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't get the whole picture by looking at someone's social media.
Mm-hmm.
And the holidays can really, when we look at things like that, when we start to compare, it can emphasize what I don't have,
Right.
what I don't have.
Mm-hmm.
It can emphasize what I've lost. I have people that have suffered loss of family members and things
Yeah.
around the holidays, and that stains the holidays
It
or
does.
colors the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, it's a filter that they look through,
Mm-hmm.
and it stains the holidays every year. You can look at, especially when you start looking at people's social media and you perceive where you think that they are in life, and they may be further ahead of you in life, but they're probably not where you think they are.
Right.
You know,
Right.
when we start comparing that, in the holidays, you look at what people are doing and things, and you hear your friends talk about, hey, I'm going shopping here. Are you going Black Friday shopping? Are you, I bought this for my kid, that for my kid.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you're a kid, you think, well, Billy's mom bought him a motorcycle. How come I didn't get a motorcycle?
Right.
Well, Billy's mom's in more debt than your mom
right.
is.
With 50% interest rates on her credit cards.
Exactly. Billy's mom got a Honda card. That's
Right,
why
right.
You can look at things and it looks like a lot of times everybody else around me is doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else is celebrating. I must be the only one that's struggling.
Mm-hmm.
It can make you feel isolated. It can
For sure.
make you feel isolated. And the truth of the matter is, you really don't know how everybody else is doing.
Mm-mm.
And you really don't know how everybody else is feeling. You know, a lot of times things are subjective. You know, you may look at someone and say, oh man, they're rich. Well, they may not be. Just compared to me, they may have more. But those same people are looking at somebody else going, oh man, those people are rich.
Right.
It's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And it revolves around what you don't have compared to what other people have. You know, there's a whole industry in our culture, in our world, not just this country, but in our world. There's a whole industry that's designed to help you compare and feel bad about yourself, so to motivate you to get in debt, to buy more. It's called advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they they use all kind of motivating things. They use fancy things. They use sex. They use all, advertising has made you, well, I'm disillusioned with my spouse. Well, what have you been looking at that's an unrealistic comparison to your
Right.
spouse?
Mm-hmm.
This is true. And so in comparison to what I see around me, my life might not measure up. Well, comparison for a believer is deadly.
It is.
For anybody, it's deadly. But for a believer, it's absolutely deadly for us. We just had Thanksgiving. And that's where this is going. That's like this intermediate thing I've been thinking about in between the holiday of Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. There's this comparison thing. And if we get into comparison, it will absolutely steal our gratefulness.
It will.
It'll steal our gratitude. It'll,
It creates bitterness
It
in our
does.
hearts.
It can do one of two things. Comparison for a believer can do one of two things. It can either inflate your pride,
Right.
inflate your ego, because you will look at somebody and compare and say, well, I'm a lot farther along in life than they are.
Right.
I have a much nicer vehicle than they do. My job title is more, has more prestige than theirs does. It can either inflate our ego because we're looking down on people, which is wrong,
Right.
or it can depress us because it makes us feel like less than this person. Our position is less than that person. Our house is less than this house. Our car is less than this car. Our
Right.
salary is less than these people make. It's comparison. Christy, have you ever found yourself comparing your life or your situation to somebody else's life? How did that make you feel?
So I'm the queen of falling into the comparison trap. I'm just gonna honestly admit that I've struggled with comparison my whole entire life with everything, and even today, I compare myself through social media to people around my age, or maybe even that are a little younger than me, or maybe a few years older than me. Heck, even people that have 20, 30, 40 years like ahead of me, like life experience ahead of me. I compare myself to what they're doing, and I'm like, well, I feel like I'm behind. I feel like I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I should have a better job. I should own a house by now. I should have no debt. Like, I should be in a different place than I am now. But I'm like, I'm 22 years old. I just got out of high school not that long ago. I'm freshly married. These people are either not in relationships, or they still live with their parents, or they probably have $100,000 credit card debt or something.
Student loans.
Yeah, stuff like that. And it's really frustrating, and it does bring my spirit down. And I feel like it does that for other people as well. Like, it just makes you, it's really frustrating, I guess. And it's kind of, you just think about it all the time, or I do at least.
You know who's really bad at the comparison thing? I'm talking about really bad at it. Like, that really affects them? Preachers.
Oh, yeah.
Preachers
I get
are
that.
horrible.
I get that.
Preachers horribly get. Now, I am a preacher, so I can talk about preachers.
Yes.
So I'm talking about myself. I'm grouping myself in this.
It's like a battle in your mind
It
trying to
is.
fight it, because it's.
How come my church isn't as big as my buddy's church? How come my revenue, our tithes and offerings aren't as much as their tithes and offerings? How come when I did an outreach, people didn't respond to it as much as when they did an outreach, or this? I mean,
Yep.
it's a constant.
Oh, I
Listen,
bet.
in pastoral circles, like in things I've been in, like different organizations I've been a part of, one of the first questions that you will be asked is, well, how big is your church? And if it's not X size, you are automatically dismissed. You are valued based on what is the size of your church. It's absolutely insane, and that is nothing but comparison. It's nothing but comparison. I have to remind myself now and then, and this is a humbling thing, but I have to remind myself now and then. When Jesus tells the parable of the talents, the master gave 10 talents to this guy, 5 to this guy, 1 to this guy. And the Bible says he gave the talents to him according to their abilities. Well, maybe the problem is not with maybe the problem is with me. Maybe
Right.
Jesus can't trust me with more than where I'm at yet. Now that's going to sting for a lot of people, because maybe I think that I should be further along in life. But if Jesus is my source, maybe I need to check myself. because maybe Jesus can't. Am I being faithful with what He's given me?
Right. Because that's like saying, so if you can't control or, I don't know if the word's not coming to me, but if you can't manage, I guess, like $100, $1,000, how do you expect God to trust you to manage $1 million to be able to give to somebody else or use for His purpose if you can't even manage the $1,000 paycheck you get weekly? Or whatever.
This goes back here all the time, but it's a revealer of the heart. The reason it comes back here, if you use that illustration, if I make $1,000 every 2 weeks or $1,000 a month, I'm just using arbitrary numbers.
Right, me too. Mm-hmm.
And he can't trust me to be faithful with what He's given me. Mm-hmm. Specifically, if He can't trust me with the tithe on what He's given me when it's small. People say, well, when I make more, no, you won't. Mm-mm. If you won't be faithful with the small, you won't be faithful with the greater. Right. And if you won't be faithful with the small, how can He trust you with what's greater? Right. Mm-hmm. And I know that's a struggle, and I know that.
It's way easier said than done.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I'm not trying to heap condemnation on people, because people are in transitions where they're trying to figure out how to be. They're trying to figure out how to be. I get that,
Me
and
too.
there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, but the principle is there. As pastors, okay, if you have a church of 300 and you think that you should have a church of 1,000, well, are you pastoring the 300 well?
Right.
Are you doing what you're supposed to do to take care of those? Mm-hmm. If you think that, this is one of those things. I need more staff. Well, are you overseeing and loving on the ones that you have? Mm-hmm. It's true. Mm-hmm. It's just crazy.
It is.
Let me read this, because we need to get some scripture in on this. We need to talk about it, see what the Bible. This whole thing is about what does the Bible say, not opinion. So, Colossians 10:12 says, "Not that we dare classify or compare ourselves with some of those who are commending themselves, but when they measure themselves by one another and compare themselves with one another, they are without understanding." And that's 2 Corinthians. It says, not that we dare to classify or compare ourselves with some of those who are commending themselves. Mm-hmm. But when they measure themselves by one another and compare themselves with one another, they're without understanding. Any comparison, I really believe that any comparison we make between ourselves and another person is an invalid comparison. Mm-hmm. It's really not a valid comparison. We may look at somebody and think, oh, well, they're the same age as we are, they're the same this as we are, they're the same that as we are. We're going to compare. It's still not a valid comparison.
Right.
People do this, people do this. Well, I'm not where I should be, but I'm doing so much better than they are. Mm-hmm. I'm behaving so much better than this one person is.
I don't sin as much as them.
I don't sin nearly as bad as they do. Their sin is so much worse than mine.
Yeah.
That's such an invalid comparison. Mm-hmm. It's legitimately invalid. Mm-hmm. There is no valid spiritual measure between me and another person. Like if I'm comparing myself to you, you're comparing yourself to me, there's no valid spiritual measure to make here. Mm-hmm. Because I was never meant to compare myself to you. You were never meant to compare yourself to me. Right. Why? Because I'm not your standard.
Right.
And you're not my standard.
Right.
And so when we start making those comparisons, it's just not valid. Mm-mm. It's not a valid standard to measure by. If they, whoever they are, I used to work construction. We used to hear a lot about they. We'd have a supervisor come down on the job site and say, well, they said this and they said that. Well, that's great. I've never met they. Does they have a name?
I get that.
It's an arbitrary thing, so it's kind of arbitrary here in my mind. If they are a standard for my life, if they, whoever they are standard for my life, then they are an idol. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I'm making them my standard. We have TV shows about this, American Idol.
Oh yeah.
They're my idol. Teen Idol. There's a magazine, there's a magazine, Teen Idol. Oh, yeah. Pastor Kelly, how come I just remember the stupid magazine.
I see a lot of people on TikTok say, when if there's a popular person who has millions of followers, whatever, I won't say any names, whatever, but there's tons of people on TikTok that are famous, but I'll see people comment saying, "You are my inspiration, you are my idol, you are my, whatever," and people also comment under that and say, "Oh, I wish I looked like that," or "I wish I could just look half as good as she does," or whatever.
Listen, those people that you're looking at on social media, they don't even look like that.
Correct.
Whatever you're seeing that they're posting out there, you're scrolling through, man, she's so much, or he's so much more handsome than I am. She's so more.
Yeah.
That photo has been doctored. They don't even look like that. Mm-mm. And if they do look like that, they had to pay somebody $3,000 to come and put on their makeup and do their hair so that they look like that for 2 hours for some photos.
Right.
Because they don't look like that.
Right.
The comparison is not, it's really, I get what you're saying, it's not valid. Mm-hmm. It's almost like I want to pattern my life off of them. If I have somebody I want to pattern my life off of them, that's an invalid comparison. People say, well, wait a minute, Pastor Kelly. Didn't Paul say we should emulate his way of life? Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. Mm-hmm. In other words, you can emulate my life as long as my life emulates Christ.
Right.
But as soon as my life stops emulating Christ, don't do what I do. Mm-hmm. Follow me as I follow Christ. So the question is, does my idol, the person that I'm looking at them, how much do they look like Christ? Mm-hmm. Really, how much do they, the person's life that I want so much, how much is their life like Christ? Mm-hmm. I'm in business and there's these rich people that are mentoring me in business. How much does their life actually look like Christ? Mm-hmm. In ministry, I want this pastor I want him to mentor me because I want to be like him. Really, what does his life really look like behind the scenes?
Right.
Let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. What's his wife say about him? Mm-hmm. Don't ask my wife. I'm playing. What do your kids say about you? Do your kids think you're an honorable man? You can be in ministry and have as big a pulpit as you want, but if your kids think that you're a dirtbag and not an honorable guy, and they know that you run around on their mama, you don't need to have anybody emulating. You know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to pattern my life off of them. We need to pattern our life off of Him. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just really. Christy, have you ever found yourself comparing what you have to what another person has?
Yes.
Like your possessions wise, like.
Yes.
How does that make you feel?
Well, it honestly, again, like it's frustrating and it causes jealousy in my heart. Being envious of somebody for, they got the brand new whatever car and it's the highest trim with the sport package, and then I have this base model something, or you know what I mean. That's just an example, but or it could be, this person got a new boat and I got this old junky boat or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
First world problems.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, but yeah, it's just rooted, all that stuff is rooted in a mental battle that just causes jealousy and frustration within myself. That's not Christ-like. That's what the enemy wants.
Can you net it back to pride? I mean, for me, when I look at, for me, definitely. When I have those battles, and I have those battles just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I should say this or not because he's worried to death about this, but my younger brother just got a gorgeous pickup truck. Mm-hmm. He is going out of his way not to, be cool about the thing and say, man, I hope it doesn't seem like but there's a little part of me that goes, darn, that's a nice truck. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This stupid truck.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Right?
Oh, yeah.
But, he has a gorgeous truck. You know what? He deserves it. He really, I guess God's blessed him with it. That's a better way to say that, probably. Mm-hmm. That's first world problems. You know what I got? A way to get home.
Right.
I've been to third world countries, and all of them don't have a way to get home.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just
perspective.
It's perspective. Mm-hmm. It is a perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, preachers do this mess all the time.
I get it.
Preachers are like the world's worst. It's I want what they have. What we're really talking about is coveting. Mm-hmm. That's one of the thou shalt not covet. It's one of the 10. Mm-hmm. Exodus 20:17. I was just fixing, but I've actually got scripture right here. I think, I need to use that scripture here, but as you have it
Yeah, you
right
have
here.
it.
I have it. I guess I thought about it before. I should use it. Exodus 20:17. It says, "You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your brother's pickup truck. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male servant, or his female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor." Nothing. PK, what they have, you'll hear people net it down. PK, what they have is shiny and new.
They try to like justify.
Yeah, you try to justify.
Yeah.
What they have is shiny and new. What I have is kind of showing its age. People do this with spouses. They really do. They do this with spouses. I mean, ladies out there, this could be your husband. That old joker's starting to show some age. He's starting to be gray, snores more, and he's like
He
more
wears
grumpy.
wrinkly clothes.
He wears wrinkled. Marcia told me my shirt was wrinkled. I'm sorry. I'm really not sorry. It's all good. He could be showing his age and starting to wear down a little bit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Sarah did that with Abram. Mm-hmm. And she said, she laughed when the Lord said, "You're gonna have a son when I come back next year," and she laughed at him.
Like, really?
She straight laughed at him. She said,
Yeah.
"Shall I being old, no pleasure again?" He was wearing out, and she saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, I mean, it could. Hey, men, it could be your wife. You may listen. She's starting to show her age, and it may be time to trade her in for a new model. That's called coveting. Mm-hmm. It's a sin. It says don't. It says don't. The Bible says don't deal treacherously with the wife of your youth. That's what it says. Why? Because you ain't all that in a bag of chips either, guys. If you are like me, 53 years old, and a 20-something is showing you some attention, it's not because you're handsome. That's demonic. That's what that is. That's the only way you look attractive. It's demonic.
It's
One
the
day
truth
she'll
anyway.
if you get her, one day she'll come to her senses, and then what are you going to be? You've squandered your. I mean, maybe I don't know why I feel. Maybe that's for somebody that's watching this today. Mm-hmm. If you have some younger ladies, if you have some younger guy that's showing you a bunch of attention and whispering in your ear, that stuff is demonic. That is meant to draw you away and deal treacherously with the spouse of your youth. That's a freebie for somebody, I feel like, today. Maybe somebody sitting there should think about that. Ladies, from a more practical thing, it could be you may have last year's Dooney and Burke handbag, and this person has the new Michael Kors, and see, I had two. You like that? It was two good ones. You like that?
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
I raised daughters.
Good job.
I've raised daughters. They have the new Michael Kors, and it is nice.
Or the Louis Vuitton.
Or the Louis.
The Louis is the real nice one. Yeah, there you go.
They have the shoes that are wrapped in the paper. You know what I mean? Maybe and I have last year's model. Make me feel some kind of way, some kind of jealous about them. Right. Make me feel some kind. Look at her. Her heels have red on the bottom. Blonics.
Or the Tiffany blue.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Make you feel some kind of way. What am I doing? I'm just coveting. Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to do.
It is.
It really is.
And you hit on something a while ago that I love to hit on, because I got guys that are buddies that have boats, and they always say, "Why do you always be talking about boats?"
Nope.
I love it. You find a nerve, you got to kind of jump on it a little bit. You know what I mean? Just jump on it.
Oh, yeah.
That boat nerve. They may think, "Listen, my boat's 20 years old. He just got a brand new boat. How did he afford that brand? He's in
That
debt.
must be a $500,000 boat."
It is, and he's in debt for it.
Right. He's struggling.
I got to have my boat.
Right.
I have expensive hobbies too. I can't really say on here that Facebook will kick us to the curb. But, I have hobbies too that are like, I look at my hobbies that are expensive hobbies and I go, man, he's got a really nice piece of sporting. We'll call them fishing reels. That's what
there we go, fishing reels.
That's what Rich Howell and I call them fishing reels. Mm-hmm. He's got nice fishing reels. How come he's got so many fishing reels? He can't use all the fish. I just need one more fishing. You know, it's
Oh, yeah.
coveting. It's why do we do that? Why do we do that? When we covet and we look at what somebody else has and covet what somebody else has, it prevents me. It prevents us from being gracious and having gratitude for what we do have. It's like a filter that we look through. It's deadly, and it makes us feel negative, and we are so blessed. If you would go with me out of country to some of the places that we go to, like in Nicaragua, to the coffee plantations. It's about time for a mission trip, by the way, folks.
Let's do it.
I'm ready to go. If you go there and you see how people live and you see what they have and you see the simplicity that they live with, I can remember being in, this was in Honduras, and going there, and I was trying to help them fix some stuff in the house. I know how to fix stuff. Don't tell anybody. I know, but I was trying to help them fix a toilet flapper. It's like a valve, toilet flapper valve. Simple.
Yeah.
Something that, is just simple. I couldn't find what I needed. I went to all these different hardware stores and all this and couldn't find what I needed for one toilet flapper. And I had to come back into country. And the thing that was a killer is at that time, my girls were both living at home and they shared a bathroom, and something was wrong. Their toilet was constantly running. It was doing the same thing the one over there in Honduras was. And so I was going to swing by Lowe's and see if I could find a toilet flapper. And I went in Lowe's, and there were like 25 different toilet flappers. There were multi-packs, there were red ones, there were like blue ones, and I can remember, I'm telling you, I had gotten off the airplane, went straight to Lowe's before I ever went home.
Oh, wow.
And I got this sick feeling in my stomach. I was absolutely disgusted, and I hate to be like this, at the excess of seeing what I saw. Now, I wouldn't have thought that way a week ago before I went. But I just came from trying to fix a problem there, knowing how to fix it, having the skill set to fix it, but not being able to find what I needed. And I come back here, and there's 20 different ones on the wall. It was disgusting to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to look at what we have and be grateful for what we have and not compare it to what somebody else has, because you don't really know. Like I say, first world problems. Oh, I wish my car was a newer car. You got a car.
And you can afford the gas in it.
You can afford well, barely, but
Right.
gas now.
Right.
You got insurance. Well, I wish I had a house. Your house has doors on it instead of just a piece of cloth across the front of it, and air conditioning. It's not full of mosquitoes every night.
And you got a mattress. And
You have a
got
mattress, and you have
TV.
yeah.
A refrigerator, and like a nice refrigerator.
You have a kitchen.
Filtered water.
Listen, exactly.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
telling you, there's a lot of places. We do water projects. There are a lot of people, they have sickness, and a lot of folk die from waterborne illnesses. You probably have pretty well clean water at your house. You don't have to prep your meals in a kitchen that has bugs all over it, flies all over everything. Your walls are not made out of cardboard, more than likely. And that's what I mean. We take for granted what we have because we want what somebody else has. Man, I'm running a long time today, but anyway, coveting leads me to feel some kind of way about everything. Comparison can only lead in a negative direction. Christy, when I compare my blessings to another's blessings, what does it do to my heart?
Well, it causes, I feel like, a negativity about God's plans for our lives, and which leads to doubt, confusion, which is what the enemy essentially
And if we're going to if we're going to compare ourselves, then we need to compare ourselves to Him.
Right.
What does my life look like? Well, what does it compare to Jesus? It's not what does it compare to JoJo on social media. Not what does it compare to this socialite or that socialite, or how do my clothes compare to Balenciaga?
Or the CEO of my company.
Yeah, or to Balenciaga. That's right. I don't like it. The Gentiles are worried about all that stuff. What is it talking about? Non-covenant people. People that don't have a covenant. People that don't have a covenant, that are not under a covenant, don't understand kingdom principles, they worry about all that stuff. They worry about the newest clothes and the flashiest car and the flashiest house and the flashiest this and that and the other. And they're worried about what this person is doing and keeping up with the Joneses and keeping up with the whoever on social media. They're worried about that.
That's right.
As believers, we're supposed to be seeking first the kingdom. God's supposed to be first. God will not take second place. God cannot take second place. You know why He can't take second place? Because He's first.
Right.
It says it pretty clear. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God. He's first. He was before everything, and He will always be before everything. So He can't take second place. But if I'm worried about what this is happening or that's happening, and I make that first, I try to make Him second. How can He even be a part of my life in that area if I try to make Him second? It just doesn't work. I'm not saying who cares and just let the world go away. And I'm saying don't get caught up in the comparison game. I'm not saying don't be diligent in your work. I'm not saying don't strive to do the best that you can for your family. I'm not saying those things. But what I am saying is seek first the kingdom. Let Him be the standard.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. There's only room for God in first place. Seek His kingdom, seek His righteousness for our first priority. If we do that, then He'll worry about taking care of us.
Right.
He has to take care of us. He's bound to take care of us. So, don't covet possession of stuff or position or progress, or don't let any of those things take primary focus in life. Don't let your spouse take your primary focus in life. Don't let your kids take your primary focus in life. Don't let your career take your primary focus in life. Don't let your church don't let your ministry take your primary. Don't let your calling take your primary focus in life. Don't let your bank account. Don't let anybody. Don't let I keep wanting to say a name. Don't let the social media of a socialite take first place in your life. Seek first the kingdom. Let Him be first in all. That's what we're supposed to do. Now, what's everybody else supposed to do? Well, unbelievers are supposed to act like unbelievers. Believers are supposed to act different. We're not supposed to get caught in the same traps. Number one, 5 practical points, and we'll get out of here. You don't want somebody else's life. You don't know what comes with that. You may think, oh, I want that life. You don't know what comes with that.
The behind the scenes.
You don't know the compromise that comes with that. You don't know the backdoor deals. You don't know the
shady stuff.
The shady stuff. You don't know the
the debt.
The debt that comes with it.
Not just money debt, but like just general.
Yeah, you see celebrities. You don't know the secret organizations that they've had to pledge allegiance to, and
the drama and all that stuff.
I'm thinking right now of a female entertainer that used to be a worship leader. And her dad and her stepped out of that and made a deal. And you don't want her life because you don't want to know what came with that, I promise. You don't want to know what came with that. You only see what they want you to see. You don't want somebody else's life.
It's a highlight reel.
It is a highlight reel. And most of those highlights are highlighted and hyped. They have a hype man. They have people, they pay for that.
Yep, to write the captions.
To write the captions and the lies. Hey, just listen. It's their lies. Let them tell it how they want.
Oh, yeah.
Number 2, live your own life. Jesus needs the best version of you, but He needs you to be you. He needs you to be you where He's got you. He needs you to be faithful with what He's given you. Live your life. Don't try to live somebody else's life.
He made us the way we are for a reason and for a purpose, on purpose.
Right. Number 3, don't neglect what you have for what somebody else has. You can't have theirs. Don't neglect what God's given you for what God's given them, because you can't have theirs. You're not going to get theirs. You can't have theirs. It's not yours, it's theirs. And if you neglect what God's given you, trying to get what they have, you're going to lose what God's given you. Don't neglect what you have for what somebody else has. Number 4, don't let anything besides God be your first. Nothing. Nothing besides God is my first. And number 5, see and seek Him as first, especially in the holiday season. If you're feeling rough in this holiday season, if you're feeling down, lift your eyes. Get your perspective right.
Renew your mind.
Renew your mind. Hey, that bingo. Renew your mind. What are you dwelling on? If you do that, if you put Him first, put His perspective first, put His mindset first, get your eyes on Him and what everybody else is doing, what everybody else has. When you get it off of that and get it on Him, watch your vision lift. Watch your perspective lift. Watch your mood lift. So, what's this season all about? It's about Him. Well, let's get our eyes on Him.
That's right.
And that's what we learned today. And it's the truth anyway. Thank you for joining with us. Please like, share, subscribe. Check us out on Spotify. And we'll see you next Thursday, 5 o'clock. God bless you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.